So it's release time again. Spoiler season is officially over. Every spoiler has been released, and everyone's strapping on their brewing caps and jumping over to their LGS's pre-releases. But what comes afterwards? You're done with your pre-release, you've got all these good cards. Which ones amongst them have the best potential for your EDH decks? I'm Ruben from Manascrew, and let's talk about the top 10 cards from Ravnica Allegiance for your Commander deck. These start from the cards I think will have the 10th most impactful entry into the Commander landscape, and then we'll work our way towards what I think is the most impactful card for Commander from Ravnica Allegiance. And oh boy, there are actually a few cards that I foresee being must-haves for many decks. So enough rambling, let's get into my list of the top 10 Commander cards in Ravnica Allegiance. Number 10. So, interesting story here. Seedborn Muse is a card that Sheldon Menery, one of the members of the Commander Rules Committee, says you should not play. Of course, EDH Rec shows that we all love this effect too much to listen to him, and at number 10 I've placed Wilderness Reclamation. It's one less mana than Seedborn Muse, and for that mana we miss out on a decent chunk of value. It doesn't untap all permanents, just lands. It doesn't untap on everybody's upkeep, just on your end step. But it's harder to remove, and it's great in any decks that have green and want access to some instant speed stuff. This card especially is going to be good in decks like Thrasios, where you can activate his ability after your turn. Rashmi players are also going to be very happy, I'm sure. But I think we'll see a lot of this card by the end of the year as a sort of budget alternative to Seedborn Muse-like effects. Number 9. At number 9, I'm putting Pestilence Spirit. Now, I'm not going to lie, this card is here because I'm actually disappointed in it. It's such an interesting card that it almost demands a build around me deck, which is why I'm disappointed. I wish they had slapped this ability onto a legendary creature. Maybe even the new Rakdos could have been a much more interesting card if it had this ability just slapped onto him. I think this card is great and could definitely see play, but I would be much more excited to see it stamped with a legendary seal of approval. Number 8. Now this next card would actually be higher on my list, except its effect is similar to another card, so I don't think it will make a ridiculously huge impact. That said, I do think it will be included in a lot of decks. My number 8 pick for best Commander cards in Ravnica Allegiance is Rhythm of the Wild. According to EDH Rec, Fires of Yavimaya is in 32% of Gruul decks. That's 1% less than Decimate, which, side note, if you're playing Gruul, why are you not running Decimate?
Roar.
No, I don't care if your commander is Rurik Thar. A 4 mana 4/1 that deals 6 damage to you is still moderately playable.
Roar.
Anyway, Rhythm of the Wild gives all of your creatures Riot and makes them uncounterable. The uncounterable aspect of this card gives us a pretty hefty amount of value in itself, and the Riot ability essentially replaces Fires of Yavimaya in my opinion, because it gives you the option of giving the creature haste or a +1 counter, which just gives you a bit more versatility. The only drawback is that the creature has to enter after you play Riot of Savages, but it's a pretty specific scenario you have to be in to suffer the downsides. I think this card is great and a decent upgrade to Gruul's toolkit. Number 7. At number 7, and what is there to say about this card? Its effect is mostly something we've seen before, but it's new for this specific archetype. This card is likely to be pretty commonplace in those Simic decks that use +1 counters. It's Simic Ascendancy. I'm sure Atraxa players are happy to see a new win con. Are there still players who play Atraxa the old-fashioned +1 counter way, or does everyone just build Super Friends nowadays? Right, I'm being informed that because I used to have an Atraxa Super Friends deck, I shouldn't be a judgmental asshole. Anyway, Simic Ascendancy is sure to be one of those particularly annoying alternate win cons that causes groans as everyone looks to see if they have any enchantment removal. Number 6. At number 6, we have Training Grounds. Wow, what a great reprint of a Commander staple for decks like Thrasios, Tasiga, Memnarch, and a low cost to... Huh? What? What do you mean it's not in Ravnica? What do you mean it's almost $20? Oh, my mistake everyone. What I meant to say was, Biomancer's Familiar. I think the ability to have a discount version or even the duplicate of the Training Grounds effect is great. The colors are a bit more restrictive, meaning you won't be able to include it in all the decks you'd usually host your Training Grounds, But still, I'm happy to see this effect outside of just Hearthstone or Training Grounds. Number 5. At number 5, we've got a Blink combo enabler which has the potential for being up there with Fiend Hunter if not Deadeye Navigator. Lumbering Battlements is a card that can flicker every single one of your creatures if you have a way of bouncing it. This card can facilitate some insane combos with ETB effects, or just accrue insane value when paired with something like a Deadeye Navigator. This is a very solid card and one I expect to draw out some serious removal over the next few years. Number 4. Now at number 4, this is the first card I've already talked about from the set. At number 4 I have Ravnica Allegiance Renegade. This is a very solid hate card with one of the first truly unique abilities on the list thus far other than Pestilence Spirit. A lot of people liken her to Gaddock Teague, but I do believe her anti-cheating of spells ability is a lot more interesting and potentially harmful to the EDH landscape. She's going to make a huge splash, I think, as the 99, but she also does well as a commander. And I am not looking forward to getting locked out by any of the combos that I talk about in my deck bite for her. Number 3. So I know I'm likening cards to other effects a lot in this video, but honestly I think it's more of a facet of Ravnica's cards than my explanations. Many of the cards here are similar to effects we've seen before, but with slight twists. Panharmonicon is a great card for anyone looking to make use of Vent to the Battlefield triggers, and there are as many, if not more, that abuse the effect of creatures leaving the battlefield. Teysa Karlov is my number 3 pick. Her first ability already makes her a candidate for one of the better commanders from the set. The second one is just another option that you have at your disposal with her. I'm already having nightmares just from imagining tokens being sacrificed while Teysa and Dictator Erebos are out. If you're more interested in other things about Teysa, you can watch my video on her. Number 2. At number 2, and wow, I've just been placing things I've already covered, just 3 in a row. I've placed the Birthing Pod, Vannifar. Prime Speaker Vannifar is another card I've done a quick deck buy on, and I'd like to state here I apologize for the mistake I made in scripting and editing, with the video referring to the Illusionist Braces combo. You need a card more like Alpheto Alchemist that doesn't state another permanent on it. Alrighty, mistakes out of the way, Ravnica offers us what so many other top tier commanders do. The ability to shoot her straight to the battlefield. Hers is an incredibly strong ability that is powerful even if you don't combo off and abuse it. This is a great card. Number 1. There is a card that... Okay, I don't want to build up the tension too much on number 1, because I'm actually really excited about this card. It's Smothering Tithe. I think Wizards is truly hearing commander players about the lack of power in Boros and white in general. Smothering Tithe is another attempt to offer us some interesting white-based ramp, akin to the Pegasus we got from the recent commander set. It's something white really struggles with, and having this card is just another tool for white to use at its disposal to ramp. This card is great. The worst case scenario is it's 4 mana and it taxes all of your opponents 2 mana each round. But if they don't pay the 2, it's a 4 mana spell that gives you 3 mana every rotation of the table, and that's if you're only playing with 3 other players. I love the design on this. I think it's a great way for white to do what it does best, and punish the greed of other colours, maintaining order. This is so high on the list because it fulfills my criteria for power level, community demand, and unique effect marvellously. It's only January, and in my opinion this is a contender for one of the best new cards of the year for our format. So now that the top 10 are out of the way, I just want to move on to some honorable mentions from this set of cards I really like but can't really see being as versatile and includes in almost every deck that uses their colors or completely has a unique effect. The first is Kaya's Wrath. So this card is great, it's almost good enough to make the list proper, but I feel like the color restricts it only to Orzhov decks or 3 color decks, and a black-white color pairing isn't exactly left wanting for board wipes. The next is Electro Dominance, and this effect is so fun and cool. It's exactly the interesting card that Burn or any other big red deck kind of needs to start being taken a bit more seriously, or at least to have a bit more fun with their spells. Lastly is Amplifier, which was just too niche of an effect for me to include, but the card itself looks seriously interesting and I'm really curious to see what people will brew around it and start seeing it in some Commander games. Thank you all for watching. I've been Ruben from Manascrew, so those were my top 10s. Comment below if you think there's a card I completely misevaluated and you think is great but I don't even mention here, or if there's a card that's on my list that you think I've been thinking is a little bit too Paradox Engine good. I want to shout out a card here that didn't make it onto the list at all, which is Verity Circle. I'm sure most people just kind of see this as a niche hate card where they can draw cards, but personally I have a Trumpocratus deck, and it's not necessarily what one could call good. Mostly it revolves around tapping your opponent's creatures to make him unblockable and has a sort of big blue sea creatures theme. Verity Circle is exactly the type of card that makes it just that bit more competitive with the other decks at the table by granting me tons of card draw off my strategy, and I'm very happy to see it released. But I thought my bias might be clouding my judgment of that card a bit too much, so I sort of took it away from the others on the list. Again, thanks to everyone who has subscribed. The response on my last 3 videos and folks who've stuck around from them has been seriously heartwarming, and I'm incredibly glad you're all enjoying the content. If you have any ideas for decks you want to see covered in a deck tech, or topics or questions about Commander, please comment below or throw them my way through a private message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I'm able with comments, or even a video based off your idea. And who knows, my next video could be based off your idea. So I'll see you then.